Day 335 of the NAMM show. Feeling good? Feeling good? Not bad, not bad. The year 2018 feels like, not bad. This is day 2 of the NAMM show, 2012 here. You guys are standing in the Line 6 performance space, so we have another room over 210 around the corner if you want to look at a bunch of our other products. And we do have a bunch of new releases for the show. So we've released some new pod firmware, we've released some new Variax firmware, we've refreshed all of the XDB Professional Wireless Series microphones, we've introduced some new mobile keys, key MIDI controllers that are tri-platform to actually enhance our mobile sort of initiative. But what I'd really like to talk to you about today is something that's a bit more exciting in some ways, if only because it represents something that's very different and a lot of a change for live musicians. And specifically, I'm referring to live musicians that mix their own sound. Because it doesn't matter what kind of music you play, doesn't matter where you play venue-wise, the same challenges that live cats that mix their own sound face, it's the same across the board. So for one, if you want to get consistently good mixes in all the places you play, traditionally you have to be a pretty good sound guy, right? Acoustic environments are organic, they're unruly, they change a lot, and to get consistently good mixes everywhere you play, you have to be a good sound guy, and unfortunately that takes a lot of time to amass that knowledge. Some people don't have that kind of time, so it would be nice if you had something that could speed that process up. As well, most, and I would actually say all, sound reinforcement systems currently do not scale well from venue size to venue size. And what I mean by that is if you're playing a bistro gig, let's say you're playing a very small environment, you can buy a very small PA and get along just fine with that rig. The problem is, if you want to take that system out and be able to play for 1,000 people, that investment, no matter how big it is or how small it is useless, because there's nothing about that system that can help you play a larger venue. Conversely, if you have a system that can play for 1,000 people, and you want to go break some of that rig apart and use it to play a smaller coffee house kind of a gig, that doesn't work either. So you've got a situation where an investment that you make in the small end of it doesn't work for the large end, and conversely. As well, one of the real problems with being a live musician is doing your own sound. So think about a guy that plays 200 gigs a year, he's playing clubs, he's playing bars, he's doing his own sound. There are thousands of people out every weekend doing this. 200 dates a year he plays, regular club, and then 5 times during that whole year, during the summer, he gets to play like a street festival or something, typical. Gets to play a big stage. Those are always the best gigs, right? Not just because there's chicks. That's helpful, especially if you're a jazz fusion musician, because you've never seen one in a club before. Yeah, it's like, wow, what are these girls? Right? So that's helpful, that's definitely helpful. But as well, it's the first time, the only time in that year where the guys get to actually play and not be the sound guy. It's the first time, only those 5 times in the year, where you get to actually just relax and be a musician. And those are always the best gigs, right? So it would be nice if you had something that would help you with that sort of environment, right? So switching back between performance mode, your right brain or your left brain or whatever, and switching back to tech guy mode is really, really distracting when you're trying to be a musician. So, we're basically announcing that Line 6 is making a very firm step forward into the live sound market with the release of 2 different product lines. So the first is a line of intelligent speakers called Stage Source. And what I figure we'll do is take you over here to stage 1 and show you. So this is basically the equivalent of a traditional coffee house. It smells a little better, but traditionally this is about what you'd find. You'd find an acoustic musician with an acoustic guitar playing solo gigs. So this is the L3T. This is one of the members of the new Stage Source line of speakers, and it is an intelligent network, self-powered speaker that's also smart enough to be a small, self-contained PA in one enclosure. And when I'm using the word small, I'm using that figuratively because it puts out 1,400 watts. So you have 2 10-inch speakers, you have a horn in the middle. It has the ability to retune itself on the fly to better suit your need, which I'll talk about in a second. And if you look at the side here, you can see it has a full-featured 2-channel digital mixing console mixed right into the side. So you have 2 combi inputs that can either be mic or line. You have a 3-band EQ with sweepable mid. You have 2 effects built in, so you have a modulation kind of effect, like a vocal doubler. You also have a digital reverb. And if you think about sort of one of the most frightening things in an acoustic environment, it's really the specter of feedback, if that makes sense. It takes a lot of gear and knowledge to be able to sort of find it and kill it, usually, if you're in that sort of situation. This guy does it for you. So you'll see there's a little feedback suppressor enabler there, and basically if you turn that on, it turns on a system that will remove up to 12 frequencies. So it will scan the entire audio band and remove up to 12 frequencies for you automatically without you having to know anything about it. And it has 3 modes. On the extreme side, it's very, very picky about what it pulls out. On the other side, it's kind of lax to let things be a little bit more natural and organic. And above that, you have something that's kind of interesting. Basically, acoustic guitar players traditionally have piezoelectric pickups in their guitars. And those pickups are designed where basically the strings go over the bridge, that applies pressure, and that basically drives a pickup and it goes out into your little amplifier. The problem is that kind of technology takes none of the sound of the body of the guitar into effect. You could basically strap those strings across a ruler and tighten them up and get a similar sound. So this guy actually has Variax acoustic modeling built into the speaker. So if you plug in a piezoelectric pickup and you turn that on, you can dial in the actual size of the body resonance that might be apropos for your application, if that makes sense. So it's very, very cool for an acoustic performer. As well, if you pop to the back, you see you got more stuff. So if we go from the top down this time, you've got the line inputs. You'll notice you actually have a stereo pair of coax here. So you can play over tracks, you've got an MP3 input, you can use line inputs from something like a keyboard or a drum machine or something like that. So for a self-contained performer, it makes a lot of sense. As well, you have the mix outs, the main outs, you get the master knob. But right here is where a lot of the real interesting stuff happens. So we're calling these things smart speaker modes. And basically it allows the speaker to reconfigure itself on the fly to better suit your current need. So it basically defaults to PA mode.